Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, and everybody watching from the comfort of their home, DBCon continues with another amazing special guest. This person is responsible for making a lot of Zelda fans cry at home and creating something very special in the Legend of Zelda space. And I think you all probably know who this is, but I will introduce him anyway. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to the show, Major Link Sean. Sean, welcome on in.
Hello, thanks for having me, DB Geek. My name is Sean. People know me online as Major Link. I've been making animations for the past, I don't know, 6, 7 years now. And I've been loving it ever since, and been making people cry along the way, I guess.
You absolutely have. Myself included, and I think a lot of my community know that because they've seen my reactions to your work.
Yes.
But yes, lads, Major Link is responsible for that incredible series we all know and love, which is called A Hero's Purpose. If you have not seen it, I do recommend. Any information that you need to know about any of the guests that are appearing on the show will be linked in the panels below. So definitely go check out Major Link if you have not. The work is incredible. So, just getting into your work, Sean, if you don't mind me asking, the first question I have for you today is what inspired you to create animated content, and how did you blend your love for Zelda into that content?
Well, so like a little bit about myself. I don't know exactly when my love for Zelda started. Felt so long ago. I don't know what made me pick him out of the rest. I don't know. Maybe it was just like he had a sword and blonde hair and but I just remember always starting drawing like him as a kid and always growing up with that, and then growing up with the games came in. I think my first game was not Majora's Mask, but I want to say Ocarina of Time, but it might have been a little bit later than that. But I just always loved telling the stories that they told, and I've always wanted to make stories of my own. I have made like a short online. I posted on my channel. I've always wanted to do little shorts, like shorts and tell a story with your created characters. So when I had the opportunity to play Zelda games, I was like, there's just a lack of something, you know? There's just a lack of because Mr. Miyamoto wanted the character to connect to Link through the player's emotions, but I don't know, the characters became more than that, I think, to everybody.
Yeah,
you know
absolutely.
what I mean? And so what I wanted to do is I wanted to find a way to make animations that with these characters that I could do. And so I slowly. Oh wait, no. Sorry. I'm gonna go back. I made AMVs as a kid, like anime, put music, like Linkin Park.
Yeah, I watched so many of those, dude.
So I do that for a long time, and each video I made was cut from like Ocarina of Time or Majora's Mask or Twilight Princess, and they didn't have a lot of cutscenes, but I had like these songs that I would try to make a story. If you go back to my videos, you can see I'm trying to like make a story through these cutscenes in the song, and it's a hit or miss. But I wanted to pursue that more without using licensed music, without using all that stuff. And then I came across like Source Filmmaker. I don't know if you know about Source Filmmaker or.
I have heard of it. Yes.
Yeah. But I found out there's billions of Zelda models available with the entire map of Zelda available, and I just kind of went haywire with that, and
nice.
Yeah, it kind of started it all. I started with remaking Ocarina of Time, and then as I went on, I always wanted to do the story of the hero Shade and how Link.
Yes.
How Link died, like what happened, and I slowly, as I got better at the program, I was like, maybe I can get some models commissioned. I can reuse some locations, and so everything started like stirring a bit like that.
That's really awesome. It's funny how you started off with AMVs. That's kind of where your kind of creative juices started to flow. And I can understand you wanted to kind of bring some more originality to it and create something unique and something that people haven't seen before. And Zelda, I think, was definitely a winner for a character to choose, or a franchise to choose, I should say, Because Link is such an interesting character in all the different games, and he's so many different
Yes.
stories. But what you've done best with this entire animation is just the connection for all of the different links and all of the different stories, because that's the one thing that I feel personally, for me as somebody that was very new to Zelda only about 5 6 years ago, that was missing. It was just this connection
Hmm.
between all of the different games. And yes, essentially they're different timelines or whatever, and that's a whole different topic altogether. But it's nice to see somebody connect it so well and be so
Thank you.
dedicated to the source material as well. So everything like makes sense. Because when watching Hero's Purpose, like it's crazy how much it all makes sense, how you connect it together. And I think that's what makes it so special for a lot of people.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, go on.
Okay. I think I said this before in another video, but I think the thing that really helps it is me and my brother Glenn. We both like I'll write a script and then he'll write the script and then I'll say it's crap and then I'll edit his and then he'll say it's crap and then he'll edit it and it's like
Mm,
we go back and forth until we have something like that we like something solid.
yeah.
And that's our workflow. But like our pillar, I don't know what to call it, but like our pillar is like always be referring to the games. The game is our boundaries. Like
Mm,
don't create anything that hasn't been seen before in a way, you know what I mean? And my
yeah.
example is this might not make sense, but my example is in episode 3 we have Phantom Ganon appear with the mask,
Yeah. Yeah.
and so that's never really happened in a game like with this character,
Hmm.
but transformation masks are a thing
Hmm.
in Zelda, and so I think people believed it and it felt real because
Hmm.
it was still contained in the world, you know?
Hmm.
And so as we go on and we write these episodes, we're like looking for things that we can, expand that a little bit, but never breaking past uh, breaking the immersion.
Yeah.
And my other example is if I brought like I know I have Hyrule Warriors link
Hmm.
in the new episode, but it's a little Easter egg. We'll get to that later. But if
Mm,
I had like a character like Sia from Hyrule Warriors show up, it would really break people off, because
yeah.
it's just not in that world. Obviously, not the timeline, all that
Mm,
jazz, and that's something we really try and stay in while we make these. And I think that's what really helps people's believability. I don't know the right word for that.
mm. Yeah, I mean, how you have approached it is definitely something that I think a lot of the Zelda community can really, support. And as you said,
Hmm.
keep the immersion. Because the one thing that I find watching those episodes, like it genuinely feels like I'm just watching an extended cutscene for a Zelda game.
That's awesome.
Um, and it's almost like playing through these games for the first time again, because you've added more context to source material that's already there that
Yeah.
makes so much more sense. And just when you see these characters reappear and when they reappear, it just works. So
Yeah.
you've done
Yeah.
a good
Yeah.
job there. So fair play.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you. Yeah.
um,
It's
yeah,
it's definitely tough working with what Nintendo's laid out for sure. They
yeah,
time travel gets messy, but
sure
we don't
does.
need to get into that.
No. Especially with Zelda, because I don't know how many times people have been trying to explain the Zelda timeline to me. And to be quite honest, I have absolutely no interest.
That's the best way to enjoy it, game
Yeah,
by
just
game.
just enjoy it game by game. But like I said, a hero's purpose is definitely a way for people to find something that they're missing, which is that connection between all of the different timelines and all
Yeah.
of the different links and Zeldas, etc. So honestly, really good job on that. And I think I speak for a lot of the community that are watching this right now that we are grateful for the work that you've done. And I feel like
Thank you.
it's such underappreciated work as well. I know the views are there, but it could definitely get a lot more. And
Thank you. Thank
I
you.
genuinely can't stress it enough. People need to watch it. If you love Zelda and you love that franchise, you do it
Yeah.
justice. So honestly,
Yeah.
fair play.
And I
Um,
have to thank you. You've been very supportive. You've pumped every single one of them, shared them. So I appreciate that.
Hey, it's the very least I can do to enjoy free content from you, my man.
Thank you.
Honestly, the
Thank you.
very, very least I can do.
Yeah.
So getting into it, like, how did you approach bringing together the different storylines? Like, what came into your mind when you said, you know what, let's let's connect all the characters in all of the different games. And like, what inspired you to do that? Was that always the plan from the beginning, or was it just something that kind of happened as production went on?
Um, so like when our first idea at the beginning, I had my initial plan that was a completely different idea. It had like 4 nights, and like you followed the 4 nights with Link,
Mm,
and you learned more, and then it became too fan fictiony, and I was like, maybe just bring reoccurring characters back in.
mm,
Then now the idea got totally changed, and then I was thinking like, do I have Ganon back? And I was like, we need Ganon, right? We need him. And so
absolutely,
I,
yeah.
I created some sort of some short story, way shorter, of like a beginning, middle, and an end. And so now that whole middle is now being like developed as we go, and
Hmm.
more characters are coming in. I don't think I had Skyward Sword specifically come into play. Um, and especially like Link questioning himself a lot. I know the first one I really wanted to question, like with Saria, that was
Yeah.
in our plan, but I always felt like we can't have too many breakdowns with Link, or people aren't going to be like a little bit. It's going to be just like a breakdown heavy, you know.
Mm,
You only can believe so much.
yeah.
So we were a little nervous with like Skyward Sword section, but we definitely, um, as we wrote it, and we kept looking through different games, it was just so easy to kind of bring other things in.
Mm,
And then when we got to this like crutch of like when Demise took over Ganon, and now Link is in this spirit world, or I don't know what to call it yet.
mm.
We were like, this is perfect. Link, the Twilight Princess Link talks to Hero Shade. We can have a moment like this right here. We can
Hmm.
do this. And
Yeah.
a previous Link has been established. Oh, let's bring in Skyward Sword. Minish Cap became before Ocarina of Time,
Hmm.
but let's be honest, the Minish Cap, if seeing a 3D Toon Link with I
Yeah.
forget what his name is on like, it would have been, and he doesn't have as much history.
Yeah.
Um, so we skipped over him and went to the first hero.
Hmm.
So a little bit of a cheat on our end there, but I think it worked for a better story
Definitely.
and more entertaining.
Mm. And
And
as you said
then
earlier, it kept the immersion as well, I feel,
yeah.
going with that choice. Yeah.
The one thing that I was very nervous of is like Skyward Sword talking. Um,
Mm,
it seemed to nobody even batted an eye to it. They just
mm,
rolled with it, which was crazy to me because I was like, do I know his personality? Like he has animations in the game. He's very goofy, but like,
mm.
will I know what like for him to say? Like
Yeah.
how smart is he? What big words does he use?
Mm. I think you've done a pretty good job with him, to be honest with you, because that didn't even cross my mind when he started saying stuff.
See,
You
I'm
know,
worried for
because
nothing.
yeah, because I feel like how you approached it was like he was a very kind of gentle Link, and I feel
Yes.
like he is one of the most gentle and most sensitive Links in the entire franchise, personally. And
Yeah.
how you approached the dialogue, I felt fit with that narrative.
Yeah, and
Mm.
maybe that's good on Nintendo because that's all I took from him too. You know, everybody
Yeah.
took the same kind of
Hmm.
expressiveness he had.
Mm.
And pulling in more games, like we all saw like Avengers and Spider-Verse is great, and I always think there's a tastefulness in showing references from other games. You know,
Yeah,
there's
absolutely.
always like you can't ham fist anything. You can't like reference just because.
Hmm.
So when I saw this moment of like it just kind of wrote itself almost like showing
Mm.
Link who we are, you know, why we had to show the heroes, you know.
Yeah.
And then we were just like, we can add more. Like, let's add Minish Cap in there. There's our Minish Cap, and then the Hero of
Mhm.
Man, who no one has ever seen, never seen before, was the. I'm sure your comments bombarded you. We know they got the headband.
Yeah.
The there's a link in the Minish Cap at the very beginning. He's on stained glass. He doesn't have any dialogue or anything, but he was supposed to be a hero, like the spirit of the hero. So I added
Right.
him, and he's the
That's
first like
awesome.
3D version you ever see of him. And then we're like, add the manga one, add the cape, add everything. Like,
That's
and
amazing.
so, and it was just like I think it was an easy little window for us to really hammer it in.
Mm.
And And for what other part of the games did we kind of jump in? Like trying to connect Twilight Princess is tough because it's very far away, but we've tried to take elements that we know happen, and I've taken like theories from people that I watch theories and I kind of
Mm.
take in what they say,
Yeah.
and I believe if it sounds solid, then I kind of go with it. Like the Death Sword, I really like that Ganon
Mm.
has. He uses the Death Sword because he gets executed in Arbiter's Grounds, and that sword is also there. So I was like, this is cool. Even if
Mm.
it's not real, it's
Mm.
cool. And it to like a simple person looking at like Arbiter's Grounds, it would look like Ganon's sword, you know.
Yeah.
Don't know if it actually is, but I think it's a really entertaining
Hmm.
and cool context for Arbiter's Grounds when you play it again.
Mm. Absolutely. Yeah, so like speaking about the latest episode of A Hero's Purpose, that
Mm.
particular scene that you were just referring to, where you had silhouettes, if you will, of all of the heroes of time, the heroes, all of the
Yeah, yeah,
links. It really did, like as you mentioned, it was the Avengers Endgame moment, I feel, of A Hero's Purpose for me
yeah,
anyway,
yeah, yeah.
personally. And it is something that I always wished Nintendo would do eventually, like have some sort of cutscene where it references previous heroes.
Oh
And
yeah,
that's something I think the fans have been waiting for 30 plus years now. And I think
yes,
the fact that it had to take somebody like you to kind of give us that, it's on a different level of appreciation. So thank you for that, honestly.
yeah, yeah. And my biggest upset was like I like Skyward Sword, but they had so much history to like reference,
Yeah,
and they didn't. They like barely touched anything. Like I could
yeah,
not believe we didn't get like a I don't know, like a mini time skip or just like some like building or something. You know,
mm,
they had so much history to jump through, and they didn't do anything.
yeah,
And so yeah, I was very happy to be able to show that there are more. Like this isn't just a one man show. This is like a an unfortunate like a story that these characters have to run through
mm,
for who knows how long.
yeah. Well, look, all I can say is, Sean, like on behalf of me, myself, the community, thank you for the incredible work that your team have done to create such an amazing story for that franchise. Because it's something that I
Hmm.
feel we all needed to see, and you've done it in such a great
Yeah,
way. So thank you for that. But going on
thank you so much.
to what DBCon is based around, and that is Nintendo. And
Yes.
our topic of conversation is Nintendo. So the next question I do have to ask is, in reference to Nintendo, how has Nintendo's approach to game design and storytelling, which is something you're very good at, influenced your work, and particularly A Hero's Purpose? Like, how did Nintendo influence that?
Well, Nintendo, like I said before, keeping in their context of what they have given me and my brother,
Mm,
um, we kind of play within their bounds. So the stories that they laid down are like, I mean, I can't say the word simple, but the Ocarina of Time gets confusing at the very end. But
yeah.
the foundation they laid really set it up so it was super easy for us to kind of like fill
Mm,
it up with stuff that fans have theorized and all that. But with their games, I say that they're very simple with their games, and they never shoot too wild. I
mhm,
think like Minish Cap's intros, like just mentions a hero, mentions something, and then you kind of move on.
mm,
So I really like that about their approach.
mm,
They never go too hard on story, which when you're taking from them can be kind of nice because then we have more freedom, but
yeah.
unfortunate because for people who don't want to create stories like this, like when you're just playing the games, it's kind of hard to
Mm,
you want to imagine more. Like I said with the end of Skyward Sword, I wish we got a little bit more
mm.
um bite at the end there.
Yeah. Well, I think that's what Nintendo are very good at. They're good at like placing a foundation for, like you
Yes.
said, a fairly simple story, but it's up to the player to kind of
Yes.
elaborate through imagination, which I think you done with
Hmm.
A Hero's Purpose. And I think that's what makes Nintendo special, though. It's like
Yes.
people play their games and they get these love for these characters immediately, even though it's just the bare bones of like a narrative. but people like to expand on that, theorize, and come up with these fan
Hmm.
fictions, and that's what makes Nintendo so fun because
So
it's almost as
timeless.
yeah, it's almost as if Nintendo purposely make it simple but add enough interest in the characters and the story for people to elaborate on with their own imagination. So I
Yeah.
think yeah, and like you said, like what you've done with Hero's Purpose, like that is a perfect example of somebody
Yeah, yeah,
expanding something that already exists. So
yeah, yeah. And
yeah,
like people have theories about Mario stories, and that's
yeah,
that's crazy, Like
mm,
they're as simple as they're so simple,
hmm
which is a testament to Nintendo. And like we all know, like their gameplay first, so it's even more incredible that they make a whole engine and a whole like gameplay, and then they tag on a story, which is that's
mm,
impressive in its own right.
yeah. So
Um,
speaking of Nintendo, we are finally on the next chapter with Nintendo and their console, and are finally 8 years later. But
yes.
it didn't matter for Nintendo. They were still making sales. They were still selling consoles. At the end of the day, what Nintendo have been doing for the past 8 years, it worked. And of course, it's only a matter of time that an update to the hardware was needed. So we're very close to the reveal of the Nintendo Switch 2. So my last question for you today, Sean, is what do you think the upcoming Nintendo Switch 2 will bring in terms of gaming experience and especially innovation?
Wow, innovation. Well, the interesting was like the mouse thing is very interesting with
Yeah, that's the
the
first thing I think pops up to everybody's head. It's almost like in your face, this is going to be a mouse. I mean, I would doubt they'd
yeah.
put that in the trailer to be like, oh, yeah, that's not actually a mouse, you know?
Yeah, and I'm like, I'm gonna need a flat table for that, like a clean table in front of me every
Yeah.
time. Um, but what I'm expecting, well, what I'm expecting, like Zelda wise, like I really want old school Zelda back
Yeah.
with, like, I'd love if they didn't run away from Breath of the Wild, but because the controls are like, I love them. I love the visuals.
hmm
I just wish we got like temples and stuff back.
Same.
And it doesn't need to be like open world. Like we don't need to fight Ganon at the beginning. I don't think anyone wants to do that all the
N-
time.
No,
But go back to the old like unlock. Like, did you play Link Between Worlds?
no, I have not. No, a lot of the
That's a
2D
good
games
one.
I have not touched, so I'm meaning to do that. So
That's an interesting one.
yeah.
With the old school temples with a different sort of way to open them.
Mm,
But as far as like hardware and like innovation, I don't know. That's a tough question
mm.
because they seem like um, I don't know.
Yeah, I think like in terms of the hardware, if Nintendo were smart, which they seem to be, and I think they know they've already perfected the at-home console formula, because the
Yes.
Nintendo Switch, it is the perfect console for a massive age group of people, from
Yeah,
handheld to
yeah,
dock mode. It's
yeah.
perfect for all audiences and all ages because there's so many different games on the Switch
Hmm.
that suits anybody, no matter what
Yes.
your background. I think the best approach is keep it the same, just better hardware, better screen resolution,
Oh
all that
yeah.
stuff. A more powerful system as well that can run games at a
Yeah,
higher
yeah.
frame rate, etc. That's because that's all people really want because we already love the Switch. I do think a gimmick or two here and there would be nice, but nothing too crazy because we know how the Wii U went. So,
Yeah, yeah. I feel that way exactly because like
mm,
even the OLED had the Ethernet port,
mm,
and I always felt like Nintendo's had a little bit of a neglect for like online
yeah,
friend like doing uh like an Xbox and PSN are so easy to like meet friends, get in a party and chat. I feel like
yeah,
Nintendo needs that next step
they
to
do.
get
Yeah,
like, I know they really don't like people talking to each other online, and I understand why. The
mm,
world is a little the world is a little messed up, but
yeah,
um we need to like break open that barrier somehow.
absolutely.
And I hope we can achieve that because then maybe some of my other friends might actually get a Nintendo console and
Mm,
because they've been stuck on like Xbox and stuff for so long.
yeah,
So anything that brings online friends together would be amazing.
mm,
And what they did with the digital thing on the Direct was pretty interesting. I
yeah. I
wasn't a
love
big
that.
fan of the cap, the week cap, the 2 week cap thing.
Yeah, that was a
I
bit
found
on
that
the
weird.
nose now. Yeah,
I found that
Yeah,
weird.
I
So
feel
get rid of
like
that.
yeah, it's definitely a feature that they were going to introduce with the Switch 2 anyway, I feel, and they just said,
Yeah,
let's do this in the smart way and advertise it for the first direct as part of a thing that people are going to get anyway.
yeah,
I do like the fact that they're doing that because, as I've said during my reaction today, there is nobody else really doing that. When it comes to like digital
yeah,
only games, like you are literally tied to that being on your console, and you can't really share that around. Now, I know Steam have a nice little share feature as well. I haven't used that myself personally, but people have brought it to my attention. But Nintendo being an at-home console, and especially like it's a family-oriented console as well. Like I feel like a lot of families have Switches and multiple Switches in their household, and especially for mothers and fathers during Christmas time, it gets super
yeah,
pricey. And sometimes your kids want the same game. So the
yeah,
amount of money people can save for just that feature alone is a game changer.
yeah. Which is crazy. Nintendo even allowed it because
Yeah.
they could have just kept that money. But like they even have like the Switch Lite. You know,
Mm-hmm.
like I'm surprised this feature wasn't like yelled at before because people will get a Switch Lite and then a Switch.
Mm.
You know, and
Yeah.
you gotta buy two copies of it. Like
Mm.
that's so I think
Yeah.
that's really cool, but definitely that 2 week cap is a little strange because what if you don't want to play in 2 weeks? You got to keep
Yeah, you kind of have to
tossing it
keep
back and
swapping
forth.
it over. And I think somebody said that it can only be done through locally as well. So you have to be in close
Oh,
proximity of each other. I don't know if
I,
it can be done through Wi-Fi connection or anything like that.
yeah, the
As far as
graphic
I know,
wasn't clear.
you need to
Yeah,
create like a group of people that you connect with regularly or something so you can swap and trade games or
yeah,
something
yeah,
like
the
that.
family thing.
Yeah, like there's obviously going to be some barriers there, I feel,
Yeah.
but it's a step in the right direction in terms of
Mm-hmm.
digital media, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
I'll still
Yeah,
support physical media all the way though, because
all the way to
that's
the
just
end.
me. That's just me.
Yeah,
I
yeah, yeah,
prefer owning my games physically in my
yeah.
hands. You know what I mean?
It is nice. The only unfortunate thing is like digital always has good sales.
Yeah,
And
they
so
do.
that's my only bite. But even then, I don't usually jump on it.
Hmm.
But this is a cool like excuse to maybe for a game I don't really care about the having the physical. I'll dabble.
Mm.
Um, One thing I wanted the Nintendo to look into is like GameCube.
Yeah.
Are we gonna get GameCube? Because like the
Uh,
Nintendo library kind of it was very slow and it was almost like an archive of history. Like
mm,
some of the NES games are really old and they're almost like a museum and not
hmm.
like something you play.
Yeah,
So I hope
I
for the
agree.
GameCube we can pump out like all the hits, and then you can by the end you can get the museum hits out.
Hmm.
Like I hope we
Yeah,
can get something like that.
I think Nintendo are very funny when it comes to that stuff because they could literally print money because there's so much games. So there's so many games that people will buy again just to play on their Switches. It's insane. Like a Twilight Princess
Twilight Princess, yeah,
remaster, a Wind Waker remaster. Like it's insane what Nintendo could do, but they don't do it. Maybe it's just something that they'll do if they really need to, but right now they have their priorities set elsewhere. So it's like I feel like they have all these things in a vault somewhere, and if they need some
yeah,
extra cash, they'll just release it.
yeah. They'll lock something up. They're like all
Yeah.
that Nintendo can be on one cart. I'm sure all GameCube can just be on one cart. Like they
Oh,
could just do that.
absolutely. Yeah, they could totally do that, but they don't.
It doesn't make any sense.
No, but that's Nintendo.
And
But
like knowing
yeah,
Nintendo, they'll release Twilight Princess and Wind Waker at the end of the Switch lifespan. Like
most likely, yeah, we'll have one more Switch One Direct before the Switch Two comes out
yeah,
officially,
yeah, yeah,
and
yeah,
it'll be everything everybody wanted like 5 years ago.
yeah.
Oh. Anyway, Sean, dude, it's been an absolute pleasure to have you. I really appreciate you sharing your journey and how you started with a hero's purpose and just your career here online. It's really a privilege to have you on, and my
Thank
community
you.
have always spoke so highly of you, and I'm glad I'm able to share your work with my community as well. And having you here on this platform during DBCon is super special as well. So again, dude, thank you for coming on, and we really genuinely appreciate it.
No, thank you so much. This was all when you texted me, I was so like pumped. I was like, I owe
Awesome.
him this. I owe him this. So it's a pleasure to be on here, and I thank you for bringing me. I do want to apologize for every time I post. I'm sure you get bombarded with messages to react to my
I
videos.
do. You would not believe my phone goes off the fritz. I'm like, I
Oh,
know, bro. I'm supporting these Patreon. I know it's coming out.
I'll message you early in advance to turn your phone on mute
Yeah.
for
Just lock it away
uh
for an
yeah,
hour or
yeah, yeah.
two.
But yes, thank you so much. It's been fun to finally get to chat with you, and yeah.
Awesome. Appreciate it. All right, ladies and gentlemen, that's going to be it from me and Sean. Let's get back to the show.